Hey, what's going on, you guys? Welcome back. Another episode of Greenlit Gang TV here. I appreciate you guys checking out the video today. Really excited to kind of get into this one. Did a lot of research on it. Really interesting. We're going to be talking about the Nuestra Familia, the NF, an organization founded in the 60s. Basically, they're the NF, then you have the Norteño gang, Northern Hispanics, red, right? If you want to kind of get a color associated with it. Just kind of the history about them. Then we're going to talk about an important government case that involved trying to break up the leadership, Operation Black Widow, that happened in the early 2000s. Really interesting history on this gang, kind of how they developed, what they came from, and what they became. Let's just get into it here. We got the Nuestra Familia, originated in the 60s. Some say specifically in 1965 by Northern Hispanics at a correctional training facility in Soledad, California, by Hispanic inmates who wanted numbers and protection actually from Southern Hispanics. It said that Sureños or Southern Hispanics were showing preferential treatment to La M members, Mexican Mafia, which was developed in 1957. And there were claims of abuse by La M, of Mexican Mafia and Sureños against these Northern Hispanic inmates, who are farmers, rural farmers. Yes, they're all Hispanics, but they're very different. They come from different areas. And as we know, even in America, that means a lot. Yeah, we're all from America, but we're from very different backgrounds, very different areas, believe different things. And that's the case that we have here. So there's a lot of specific events along the way. People talk about how in the 60s or 70s a pair of shoes was stolen from one inmate to another, and it actually ended up ending somebody's life over it. And some say that's what kicked off the longest running gang war in California's history that is still ongoing to this day. So anyway, the NF, the Northern Hispanics, they adopted a strict set of beliefs, and that's something to really remember here when we talk about this, all right? The Nuestra Familia stands for our family and is mainly made up of Northern Hispanics. Now, to clarify, Norteños or red are generally considered to be foot soldiers for the NF, but that doesn't mean that every member of the NF is a Norteño, okay? Just to get that kind of established. The NF operates in and out of prisons and has serious influence on the streets, especially on the West Coast with the Norteño gang and other. They have a lot of power, okay? That's one thing to really emphasize here. They have a lot of power, a lot of say-so in what goes on. It said that they did a lot of home invasion robberies, a lot of narcotics trafficking to basically build up their money, to build up their power, to build up their influence, which enables them to recruit better. If you have money, you have power, respect, you can recruit better. People want to join you. You've got numbers, you've got strength, you've got protection. So it's just something to remember. Now, they're lesser in membership numbers than the Southern Mexican gangs, but what they lack in numbers, they make up for in intensity. They make up for in just mindset, viciousness, willingness to go all the way, all right? So they control, the members of the NF, right, in these California state prisons, the narcotics trade is controlled on the streets and in the prisons, extortion, protection rackets, everything. The California Department of Corrections didn't recognize the NF as a prison gang until 1979. So, membership, all right? Membership is made mostly of Chicanos and other Latinos. However, it can extend to non-Latinos. Most members are considered, now this is important, once you make it to the NF, because you're not just in the NF, you can't just join the NF, all right? You're going to be like a foot soldier for the NR, Nuestra Raza, or just a Norteño street gang level. There's levels to this. I watched an interview. It was talking about CADs, right? CAD 1, CAD 2, CAD 3. CAD 1, low-level guys still learning the literature, the Constitution, what their beliefs are. CAD 2 are guys that know the Constitution, can say it, they know the beliefs, they know what's expected of them, they're known what to carry out. And then level 3, CAD 3, is like management, the backbone of the gang. Okay? Now, Like I said, most members are, once you get to that level where they approach you and say, okay, if you want to be a part of this, all right, it's considered to have taken a blood oath. So commit a violent crime, maybe take a life, all right? Now, membership extends well beyond prison. Like a lot of the other prison gangs, this is considered for life. There's no coming and going from this. And reading through, and I put those up for you like the Constitution, and reading through some of their readings and their teachings, you are to put the gang above all else, all right? The gang comes before money. Basically, the gang comes before any personal wants or needs. You are to sacrifice at all times. Would you take a family member's life? Would you take, not just would you take life, would you, at the drop of a hat, given an order, would you carry out that order? Now, a lot of prison gangs have these beliefs, but the NF, the Northern Hispanics, they take it to almost a whole nother level of strictness. The Norteño, like the NF calls their constitution like the Bible. The NR, Nuestra Familia, they have like the 14 bonds, all right? And the Norteño gang has these 14 bonds. They're all kind of tied together, but again, there's levels to this. The NF is like the major leagues. The NF is the best of the best, the cream of the crop, all right? Recruiting, you're almost like on a probationary period, all right? So they are expected to carry themselves a certain way, receive an education in history, such as Middle Eastern culture, philosophy, Socrates, about important figures in history. You also get a crash course on making weapons from behind bars. You got to get creative. You've got to get intuitive. A lot of time on your hands. A lot of time on the hands for the leaders to teach this stuff. It's all taught and believe. You're not, like I said, you're not just a member right away. You are to take orders without question, carry weapons for members, carry paperwork, carry out violent acts on command. That can be anything. That can be up to the lightest attack, or you're going all the way. You're going to book someone. You have to really read this stuff and watch certain things on this to really understand the intensity of this. And then I've read and watched some interviews, and it's like almost like when they're on when these street level guys, they join a gang, it's almost like their goal is to get to prison, because the leadership's in prison. The prison leaders, they're the ones calling the shots on the streets. The respect level is 100x for the guys behind bars. And the guys behind bars, like I said, like that CAD program, once you get to that CAD 2 where it's like, okay, the indoctrination process, the readings, the Constitution by heart. If you get released and go back on the street, you're made, man. You are made. You're kicked back. You got a crew. You got a block. You are running things. And, you're always kicking back up to the guys locked up. You're always kicking back up, making sure people are straight. They're locked up. The leadership that are doing life in Pelican Bay or San Quentin. So it's just a very interesting, strict program. And a lot is known about him, but at the same time, a lot's not. This gang doesn't get covered as much. I did see some big news stories done about him, but still, they're light in numbers, but they make up for it in just intensity. I watched another interview where they talk about it's almost like a military structure. It said, the one interview I watched, it was about how I read the interview, it talked about how it's like ex-military members are in this gang, in the NF. So it's structured, disciplined like a military. And it carries down to the bottom guy all the way to the top. Things are designed, there are things in place to handle if the feds come in and try to break up leadership. If the feds come in and take down one group, this other group can take over. There's always somebody waiting in place. I think the fact, too, that you can't just become a member right away says a lot, because they're going to vet a lot of people out that they deem as no good or, he don't have what it takes. Females cannot become members. They can be associates. They are more used to, run narcotics, messages back and forth. And speaking of messages, it says that members are ingenious at using invisible urine, using urine to make invisible ink to send messages back and forth, elaborate artwork to get messages out, because these guys are locked up 23-1. Everything, every piece of mail, every pencil is is highly scrutinized, and yet they're still getting their message. They're still getting their orders out. I will say it's impressive the level of which they are going to in order to still have power and control everything. It is crazy. So, Operation Black Widow. This is in 2002. The feds wanted to indict basically the leadership of the NF. There were 5 big-time leaders at Pelican Bay. The feds' thought process was, okay, we're gonna go after these 5 guys that are controlling everything. We want to break them up so the power structure crumbles, and they release their stranglehold on the prison system. Well, yeah, 22 people get indicted. They get all kinds of witnesses. They get a kind of testimony. They get people to flip. They get informants. They get people. I read an article where they got one guy to, last name was Hernandez. They got one guy to, he was like an associate. He was like a go-between. He was working for the feds the whole time. They let him establish like a crew on the street and in prison, running all kinds of go-between messages for guys in prison, guys on the street, and it was just all to go after these guys. I saw something where it was 22 people were indicted. I read another article that said like up to 150 people. That might have come later, but the initial indictment was 22 people. The 5 leaders in Pelican Bay that they were going after: James Morado, Joseph Pinky Hernandez, Gerald Cute, I don't want to say that wrong, Rubalcaba, Cornelio Tristan, and Tex Marin Hernandez. They said that the NF at the time was responsible for taking over 600 lives, a lot of violent robberies, a lot of violent attacks in furtherance of the gang on the street level. Again, money, power, respect, recruitment, it all goes into one. So, they do accomplish this. They do get the 5 guys from Pelican Bay sent to ADX, Colorado. There is a little bit of a fallout because a lot of members go, well, the leaders are supposed to be in California. They're not in California anymore. So what are we going to do? Okay. Now they're in ADX, the most high security prison there is. Some of these guys were looking at death sentences or life without parole. That brings up a whole nother entity of, you believe in the death penalty or not. But regardless, they're sent out. All right. Eventually, a gentleman named David D.C. Cervantes became the organization's sole leader and was the first time the Norteños had a single individual as their leader. There were generals below him, but that was the first time that the Norteños had an actual individual leader calling all the shots. And I do kind of picture that, like, I wonder what that guy, I was thinking, I probably felt pretty good, actually, knowing that he is not one of 5, he is one of 1, and he now controls everything. Just like other positions of power, it said that there were inmates that still held loyalty to the guys that had left, that they believed just because they were shipped out doesn't mean that they should lose their power. But ultimately, majority did believe so, and apparently members were told you still respect those members that were sent to Colorado, but they were basically stripped of their rights, of their power, and basically left powerless. So really interesting. They still operate today. I'm sure they're stronger as ever. And like I read, spreading them out in these other cases that came years later, because the feds came years later. There's all kinds. Look it up. You can find other cases, and it spread out because basically what the goal was to get these guys on federal charges. All right. So if you do a crime in California, you're going to go to a state prison in California. Well, that's how these 5 guys became leaders and controlled everything. Well, the feds, it's everywhere. You can commit a crime in Washington, rob a bank in Washington. You're going to get sent to a federal prison in Virginia. Do a kidnapping in New York. You might get sent to a federal prison in Utah. It's just, that was their goal, was to scatter them. Although it was interesting that they sent 5 leaders together at Pelican Bay. They sent all 5 of them together at ADX. I get it's the max security, but still, these guys are ingenious, have ingenious ways to communicate. They're smart. They're not dumb at all. All right, they're very smart. They educate themselves daily. They exercise daily. They keep their mind sharp, right? You control my body. You control my movements. You control my place of physical living, but you cannot control my mind. I said the governor at the time, California, Arnold Schwarzenegger, said that putting them all together at ADX was dumb. We should scatter them. But even that probably doesn't going to work because scattering them It's only gonna. These guys are leaders. They know they're charismatic. They're well liked. They have influence. They're gonna get put in these other federal prisons, and they're gonna recruit like crazy and get these numbers up. And that's one of the interviews I watched. It said the Mexican mafia, they are nationwide, and this allowed the NF to also become nationwide. So in a way, it made them stronger. Which just kind of goes back to then what do you do, right? You can't do nothing. If you're the government, you can't do nothing. You can't just sit by and let them do all this. You got to try different tactics. So it's very interesting. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time, I'll see ya.